Así que vamos a presentar ahora al último speaker de esta primera etapa de la jornada. Va a ser una charla también muy interesante, porque la última conferencia planeada para hoy, antes de empezar con los workshops, está a cargo de Ingrid Vasiliu-Feltes, founder and CEO del Institute for Science, y va a darnos la siguiente disertación. Se llama Aprendizaje en la era digital, aprovechamiento de la inteligencia aumentada. Y va a ser presentada por nuestros sponsors, que forman parte, por supuesto, de este Fiat 2023, nuestros sponsors Plata, la Universidad de La Sabana y Singular. La conferencia de Ingrid será en inglés con traducción simultánea. Recuerden seleccionar el idioma que prefieran. Le damos la bienvenida. Hi Ingrid, welcome.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here with everyone, and I really enjoyed the previous presentations. Please allow me to share my screen. If you are not able to see it, please alert me. Once again, thank you for the opportunity. It's a privilege to be here. Today, the focus of this keynote will be to leverage augmented intelligence. Please allow me to share a brief overview. I will start with introducing a few concepts. Then I will emphasize some of the challenges we're experiencing when trying to leverage hybrid augmented intelligence, as well as opportunities that we have at an individual and business level. Then I will also introduce a few thoughts for future directions in research and development for learning and education and hybrid augmented intelligence. And I will conclude with a few slides on the impact that hybrid augmented intelligence has had on our society. I know several speakers covered it already, so I'm going to try to only touch on a few items that have not been mentioned yet. So when we talk about augmented intelligence, I just wanted to make sure I offer a reminder about the definition, and I use the one from IEEE, but there are numerous others. So to remind ourselves, the original term stems from 1956, and it was originally called intelligence amplification. And I would like to highlight the fact that when we now use the term augmented intelligence, we're talking about enhancing human intelligence, not replacing it. And we're aiming to improve our daily life and our work, as well as our education and entertainment. Today, when I'm going to mention hybrid augmented intelligence, at all times, I will refer to the fact that we're having human learning augmented by artificial intelligence, human executive functioning augmented by artificial intelligence, and human education augmented by artificial intelligence. I would also like to share that even for human intelligence, we have a variety of intelligence types. Each one brings different value. So when we think about combining each of these with artificial intelligence, we will need new approaches, new methods, new tools. Very important to consider that. Additionally, we humans have very different learning styles. So similarly, in addition to different intelligence types, we also have different learning styles, which will require a new method, a new workflow when we think about how to augment each of these learning styles with artificial intelligence. Last but not least, perhaps the most important one, we humans have also a variety of executive functioning domains that we deploy doing all kinds of tasks every day, from the simplest brushing of teeth to more sophisticated and advanced skills such as flying a plane or playing music, for instance. So once again, each of these executive functioning skills, when combined with artificial intelligence, will need a completely different workflow, different tools, different quality improvement methods, and that is the foundation for everything that I'm going to share today. So when we talk about augmenting, please remember that we have numerous facets. The other key feature that I wanted to highlight before we jump into more details is the fact that our aim, like we mentioned, is to enhance our life, work, education, and entertainment, not to necessarily replace it. We want to replace redundant tasks or tasks that can be done easier with automation. So collaborative problem solving is one of our major goals: improved accuracy, increased efficiency, personalization of our workflows, performance enhancement, adaptability, scalability, and flexibility are just a few of the goals when we deploy hybrid augmented intelligence. I would also like to highlight the key element in all of this is we have workflows with humans in the loop, like I just described, where we'll have human-guided machine learning, human AI collaboration, and human AI arbitration. But then we'll have, of course, tasks where it was okay to replace the human, and we will have them completely function autonomously according to predefined rules and algorithms that still humans developed and designed, of course. I would also like to remind ourselves that we have lots of types of artificial intelligence. The same way I described, we have numerous types of human intelligence. Similarly, we have a whole complex portfolio or arsenal, if you will, of AI tools, methods, and algorithms. The definitions vary according to sources. The goal for today is to just highlight that there is a multisensory way of interacting with artificial intelligence, and that the depth of tasks that artificial intelligence is trained by us to do also varies. Once again, when I will talk today about hybrid augmented intelligence, it will refer to combining all of these types with all the types of human intelligence I just described. So as you can imagine, you can see why it becomes quite complex and nuanced. So what are some of the key AI machine learning types? Just I described our human intelligence types. In AI machine learning, we have some very large categories that include deep learning, reinforcement learning, neural networks, and general adversarial networks. This list is not meant to be exhaustive, but just these are the most commonly used so far. Also, I would like to point out something very important that's often confusing when we share data on social media or in articles. It's extremely important to separate when we say hybrid augmented intelligence from adaptive AI, cognitive AI, and semantic web analysis. They can be used in combination. They are augmenting and amplifying each other, but they're very different. Additionally, although we've been focused over the last few months as a society heavily on the transformer-based models, such as the GPTs, but there are numerous other types of generative AI who are more powerful, actually, and they might come in the next year or 2 or 3 into our lives. So I just wanted to point out that generative AI is a very big category, and transformer-based models are only one of them. So using the analogy that my previous speaker shared with the cats acting chaotically, imagine if the simplest one of the generative AI caused so much chaos in society, what will happen when these are becoming larger adoption? So another distinction that I wanted to highlight that's really important when we think about how to combine artificial intelligence and augment our own human intelligence is that generative AIs can do a variety of tasks already. They can generate images, text, music, video, 3D shapes, architecture and design. They can also do text-to-speech, human voice audio generation, and synthetic data generation, like you've heard in layman terms, deepfakes. And to highlight and distinguish all these, we now just have to highlight the fact that ChatGPT is just a small portion of text, of human-like text. So once again, if only ChatGPT caused so much impact in society, imagine now if we start to think about all the other types of generative AI, we must be ready. And like also the speaker prior to that highlighted, we must be future ready and think about how to prepare not only ourselves, our children, but also organizations for this future. Of course, after introducing all these concepts now in terms of definitions, I also want to highlight some of the key challenges we experience with hybrid augmented intelligence, and there are plenty. Privacy is perhaps the most important one. We've seen how digital trust can be easily lost, not only for businesses, but also for individuals. Ethics is something I'm deeply passionate about, and it was always important for several thousand years, but in the future, it will have a new impact in the way we deploy all these technologies and the way we learn to accommodate them and embed them into our daily life, entertainment, and work. Cybersecurity, the digital divide, digital literacy and fluency are also concerning. the need for leaders to be digitally ambidextrous, of course, all others that we know from other frontier technologies such as interoperability, the need for ongoing QA/QI, legal and regulatory hurdles that we must overcome, and not to mention also cost. What are some of the opportunities? When we think about opportunities, I would like to separate them for individual performance and for businesses. Opportunities for individual performance that we can leverage hybrid augmented intelligence for is to improve our quality of life, assistive for humans with disabilities of all kinds. And there are a number of startups who've done amazing work to help humans with various disabilities such as blindness or hearing or gait disability. And the technologies available currently with hybrid augmented intelligence are amazing, and they really change those humans' lives. Augmentation of our skills help us work faster, better, more accurate. Optimization help us do things that before we could never do, like the translation example. Now we'll be able to talk in another language with friends or colleagues very quickly in a more immersive way. Integration and harmonization of skills that before were not possible. Acceleration of skills. So ChatGPT has shown us that now we can be with appropriate guardrails much more efficient and gain hours in our lives to do other creative things. And of course, monitoring. On the business side, you have similar increased efficiency, accuracy, optimized risk management, cost savings, enhanced cybersecurity that can be achieved with hybrid augmented intelligence, but of course also stimulate innovation, embed diversity, equity, inclusion into the hybrid augmented intelligence workflow so that we cannot have it set on the back burner. And of course, also embedding environmental, society, and governance metrics into our hybrid augmented intelligence workflows. Last but not least, we can also embed human rights guardrails in our automated workflows or in our hybrid augmented workflows. I would also like to introduce a few thoughts for further research and development. When we think about the future, it's important to recognize that we're going to have converging technologies. It's evident even now when we look in the entrepreneurship ecosystem and in the pipeline that we see in academia, almost all novel products or services combine 2, 3, sometimes 4, or up to 15 novel emerging technologies. So what's predictable is that we definitely will have human intelligence always somewhere involved, at least designing all these. The full AI portfolio is very likely to be leveraged to augment not only human intelligence, but also all these other frontier and emerging technologies, such as AR, VR, XR, advanced computing, biometrics, bioimplants, nanotechnology, sensors and wearables, and advanced computing again. When we think about advanced computing, I would like to highlight a few that have been already deployed, some that are currently emerging, such as generative AI, cognitive computing, adaptive computing, DNA computing, neuromorphic computing, and high-performance computing. The researchers around the world are working on exascale, green computing, and of course, quantum, which is predicted to arrive way faster than we previously thought. Just a few years ago, researchers around the world were predicting that quantum will make the leap from the innovation lab to the business world in about 10 years. Now that time frame has compressed, and it's possible that we might see that even within the next 5 years. When we talk about future directions for the era of hybrid augmented intelligence and the enablement that we can have, I would also like to point out the opportunities to create a brain and neurodigital twin, a brain-computer interface that can help patients with a variety of medical diseases or patients that have disabilities and need help. I would also like to point out the opportunities that hybrid augmented intelligence will have in the evolution and maturation of the metaverse for learning and education, where we'll have multimodal, multisensorial, immersive learning and education environments. Additionally, as we've already seen several companies like NVIDIA and Globant, they've made huge strides in building the omniverse, which is like an industrial metaverse, multiple industries converging, multiple technologies converging, and the ability to train the workforce in this type of environment, as well as to engage in talent development by leveraging hybrid augmented intelligence, is phenomenal. It can also help us reduce risk and increase safety for training of the personnel in many industries that have high risk. Additionally, I would like to also point out the ability for us to leverage some of the hybrid augmented intelligence in a Web 3.0, next generation of the World Wide Web iteration, enabled learning environment. That decentralized opportunity to create novel education systems, just like was described before, the crowdsourcing learning platform, or even have education-centric DAOs, is an option right now with the technology we have. All it takes is design thinking and embracing an innovation mindset on our part to see how we can embed and leverage this hybrid augmented intelligence workflow. Last but not least, we must be ready to face the quantum computing revolution and hopefully not act as chaotically and asynchronous as we've seen the reaction now with just a tiny ChatGPT being deployed large scale. Here are a few examples to highlight the progress that has been made in society. All of you know the progress with Sophia, also the progress that has been made by Boston Dynamics on some of the intelligence-enabled robotics platforms. Huge progress over the last decade in what robotics platforms can achieve right now, particularly in the areas of defense, healthcare, and industrial safety. We have seen tremendous opportunities for deployment. Additionally, neuromorphic computing, which I mentioned, has also offered tremendous opportunities, and there are companies who are leveraging it, of course, in neurosurgery and other neurosciences to help patients that otherwise had absolutely no other opportunity to ever consider any relief from their symptoms. Additionally, as we've seen just a week ago, one of the companies that is deploying hybrid augmented intelligence as well as brain-computer chips has received the first approval to start human clinical trials. So that's a major step for society, even if it doesn't work out. Just the fact that they reached a point to achieve human clinical trial approval is major. I would also like to hone in a little bit on the opportunities offered to us by digital twin technologies. And for those of you that might not be familiar with digital twins, it's a virtual replica of pretty much everything we can have in real life. It can be a virtual replica of a city. It can be a virtual replica of a building, of an airplane engine, of a car engine, or in life sciences and healthcare, it can be a replica of a patient's health process, a disease process, or a virtual replica of a medical device, or a virtual replica of an organ. And there have been huge strides over the last few years. We already have the virtual digital twin of our heart. There's a huge consortium of companies and academic centers that have launched that program. Additionally, a virtual replica of our lung already exists, as well as virtual replica of our liver. There are scientists who have worked on the virtual replica of disease states such as cancer or our immune response. Tremendous progress almost on a weekly basis is being seen. But our focus today for this lecture, I wanted to share that we now have tremendous research and deployment of a virtual replica of the brain. Once again, European Union has a huge project that has started in 2020 and has made tremendous progress. So I wanted to share a few details about that. So that digital twin of the brain can open up the way for digital twins to be created for personalized education, digital twins for personalized learning. We can have precision education by combining our own genetic makeup with the digital twin for personalized education, as well as precision learning, where we combine, again, genomics for our personalized learning experience. Here is the example of the European Union project I mentioned, and it, of course, focused first on Alzheimer's, which has plagued our society for hundreds of years. So I encourage you to look it up. I know we don't have time today, but it's fascinating what the virtual replica of the brain, the digital twin of the brain, has been able to highlight for us, and how it helps researchers and clinicians around the world. Here is just one example how a neuro twin would be constructed and what it could offer us in terms of insights. Again, this is from IEEE, and you can see how the digital recreation of our biological product is creating the virtual replica. For the last few minutes, I wanted to share very briefly the impact on our society that hybrid augmented intelligence has had and will continue to have. Once again, I know you've seen it already, so I'm not gonna harp too much on it, but ChatGPT is just one tiny example of a very small generative AI deployment, and you can see how it took the world by storm much faster than anything we have ever had in society so far that has been recorded, at least. Additionally, World Economic Forum has highlighted that by 2027, it predicted that the proportion of tasks that done by machines versus humans will increase, as this highlight shows. Additionally, we must place hybrid augmented intelligence in the global context. As some of our speakers already highlighted, not only do we have high volatility, but also hyper-virtualization, hyper-connectivity, increased gamification, the immersive multisensorial spaces and experiences, the remote workforce, which is not as high as during the pandemic, but it's still more remote than we've ever had in the history of the workforce. We also experience a skills migration and skills misallocation, as well as a profound, if you will, tectonic employment transformation shift. This is, of course, coupled in parallel with intelligent automation and the need to train and retrain and upskill all the employees for the future. So when we think about the impact in the context of our focus today, it will have impact on learning, education, the degrees type that we need to offer our students so that they are prepared for this digital era. And of course, the type of skills, onboarding, training, talent management we need to do so that we can prepare the workforce for this future and teach them how to manage these hybrid augmented intelligence workflows. Just designing the workflows and having the technology and learning the skills is not enough. We also need different management styles so that they can learn how to manage these new workflows. Here is just a very quick overview of the roles that are considered at risk by AI, and then roles that are highly amenable for hybrid augmented intelligence. These are a conglomerate from numerous published data from World Bank, OECD, World Economic Forum, and several other sources like United Nations reports. I would also like to highlight something that's essential. As we started this keynote today, I mentioned human intelligence and the versatility. What I would like to highlight here is that even in the future, all this technology would still require humans. We just will have to deploy maybe novel skills that we never thought we had, or hone in and augment some skills that before we never had to showcase. But nothing will be as important as our complex problem solving, our critical thinking, and our creativity as humans. That will still be necessary. Here is also a list promoted by the World Economic Forum of the skills of the future in this era of hybrid augmented intelligence. So for those of you that are worried about if technology will replace your jobs, try to take a look at these skills and see which ones are your strengths, which ones are maybe your weaknesses, and you can augment them a little bit to make sure you're ready. Here is just another graph that highlights the fastest growing versus fastest shrinking jobs, again, by the World Economic Forum. And each of you can check and see where you're landing in this scale, and then trying to see what you can do to prepare yourself for this future. I also thought it's worth highlighting the skills by country. It's interesting to see. This is a live chart that you can access at OECD. It's amazing, everything they offer. I encourage you also to drill down. I just wanted to highlight for today that the industry average is here in terms of AI skills, and many countries are way above that average. in summary, there's only one takeaway I want to have for all of you. Collaboration is the future. No matter how much deep tech we're going to deploy, it's important to think about how we can have design thinking in our approach and embrace in this type of technology so that we have a hybrid augmented intelligence centric future. Thank you for the opportunity, and I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.